What is going on, everybody? Dan with GearFocus here, and today we're talking all about frame rates, specifically why I decided to start shooting my B-roll in 30 FPS. I used to have this weird aversion to 30 frames per second, and for the most part, for talking heads and things that need to be in real-time motion, I still prefer 24 frames per second. That's what the cinematic standard is, and that's what I export all of my videos in. I see it time and time again. The first thing that people do when they go to shoot B-roll is they switch to some high frame rate like 60 FPS or 120 FPS, completely ignoring the 30 frames per second that pretty much every camera has. Slow motion and cinematic are not the same thing, and if you use slow motion too much, your edit can become boring and repetitive. We can add a new flavor to our B-roll by shooting in 30 frames per second. Now the magic happens when we take that 30 frames per second clip and interpret it to a 24 frames per second timeline. We get something that looks like real-time playback, but it's got a dreamy kind of flowy look because it's playing back at 80% speed. Another added benefit of shooting in 30 frames per second is you have more frames for things like stabilization to use. Both of these clips were shot using a handheld setup, and you can see that the 24 frames per second is not nearly as stable as the 30 frames per second clip after stabilization is applied. Also, following the 180-degree rule, shooting in 30 frames per second is going to give you a faster shutter speed. I find this particularly helpful when I'm shooting things like drone footage or FPV footage when the motion is extremely fast. It helps see the finer details when we are moving at a very fast pace like we do with our regular drones and FPV drones. And because you are stopping down, if you are shooting on a bright sunny day and you're just a little bit overexposed, shooting in 30 frames per second can help you get that proper exposure. Now just as a heads up, you do not want to be putting 30 frames per second clips on a 24 frame per second timeline without interpreting them. If you do that, what's going to happen is your software is going to randomly drop 6 frames to match that 24 frames per second, and it's going to look really jumpy and not pleasing to your viewer. Now, most softwares will allow you to interpret your footage to the timeline automatically on import, but if you don't have that setting checked, all you need to do is right-click on your clip and change the speed. Now, obviously, there are going to be times where this B-roll trick does not work, and you should probably be using a high-speed frame rate, but that does not have to be all or nothing. I'm really curious to see what you guys can come up with using this new B-roll trick, so if you make any content with this, be sure to tag us on any social media platforms with the hashtag GearFocus30 so we can make sure to check it out. Alright guys, that's going to be it for today. Thanks for watching, thanks for sticking around to the end. Let me know down in those comments what your favorite B-roll trick is, and maybe I can try it out here on the channel. I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and remember, GearFocus is always here to help you feed your passion.